Hi, my name is Colleen Myers. I'm a recovering judgmental church lady, and I'm glad you've joined me for this episode of the Smack Dab podcast, living smack dab in the center of God's will. I forget how I even thought of this or what brought it to my mind a couple weeks ago, but somewhere I heard about pearl divers, and maybe it was something mentioned in passing about how maybe it was on a radio or a documentary or something. I forget. But anyway, the bottom line is I heard about how these pearl divers in ancient times would tie weights to their backs before they would plunge into deep down into the ocean. They would have these weights tied on their back, and they did that because without the extra weight, they would float. They would float too easily to the surface, and they'd never reach the ocean floor where the treasure was that they were hunting for, those pearls down there on the ocean floor that they were seeking. And so these weights would help them go deep enough to find what other people never could. Unless they had that weight on their back. And it reminded me of a verse in James that I have mentioned frequently on this podcast, or alluded to at least, James 1, 2, and 3. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. So trials deepen our faith. Just like the pearl divers, when we go deeper, um, when we're under pressure, um, our faith is formed. It's a different type. Shallow faith is often developed in easy seasons in our life, right? But that deep faith, that lasting trust is formed when we're desperate for God at the bottom of the sea, when we are under great weight, great trial that is holding us down. There are treasures that we can find in that space that normally we would never be accessing because we wouldn't be that weighted down. We wouldn't see those things and learn those things. Trials reveal hidden treasure that otherwise wouldn't be revealed to us. So I just want to encourage you with this today, that sometimes the greatest treasures, things like patience, compassion, humility, and purpose, are only discovered through pain during times of great weight. That's when those pearls are revealed to us. 2 Corinthians 4:7 says, we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. God meets us in the deep. He meets us in the deep, dark places when we're weighted down. You're never alone at the bottom. God doesn't watch from the surface, though. He dives with you. So you are there with him in the deep, in the dark. He is there with you. Isaiah 43:2. I love this verse. It says, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. They will not sweep over you. He goes with us into the deep. He goes with us into the trials. And when we look at him, that's when we find the treasure, when we look to him in those dark places. I was scuba diving. I'm not a diver, but I was scuba diving a couple years ago. Not scuba diving, snorkeling. That's the word for it. I am not cool enough to be a scuba diver. I was snorkeling with my husband a few years ago. Someone gifted us a wonderful week-long trip to Maui, and we were snorkeling in the waters off of that beautiful island in Hawaii. And um, I was real concerned. I'm not a great swimmer, and I'm kind of afraid of being underwater, and especially being in an open ocean underwater. My husband, on the other hand, is an amazing swimmer. He has no problem being in water, in deep water. He takes way more risks than I do when he's snorkeling. He goes to edges under the water. He'll swim to the edges that drop off into the deep because he says that's where the bigger creatures are going to be hanging out that he wants to really see through his mask as he's underwater. And anyway, I spend most of my time when I'm snorkeling with him, just kind of telling myself I'm okay, it's going to be okay. And then I see these beautiful things when I'm underwater, like these orange fish and stuff. And I'm like amazed by the beauty that's under there and the beautiful coral. But most of the time I'm focused on the fact that I'm in uh, a dark, fairly risky place. And when I focus on that, it's hard for me to notice the beauty that's around me. So one time, I was just making sure that I was getting enough air through my snorkel and that my mask was staying clear so I could see through it. And my husband swam up to me and pointed his finger, and he was pointing it right behind me. And I turned around, and there was this beautiful sea turtle that I would not have noticed if I if my husband hadn't got my attention and pointed through the water to what was directly behind me. And I thought, wow, I could have missed that if he hadn't pointed it out. And that's sort of how it is when we're in those deep, dark places. If we look to Jesus, at those times, he is right there with us. Like my husband was right there with me. Jesus is right there with us in the deep, in the dark, and he will point out things. If we look to him, he will point out things that we will see that we will not see if we're on our own. And so I want you to remember that God meets us there in the deep, and that you're never alone at the bottom, that he dives with you, and that there are beauty, there are treasures, there are pearls to be found when you're in those places. And the next time you feel weighed down, let your goal not just be to survive like mine was with that snorkel and my mask under the water. Let your goal not just be, okay, when can I float back up to the surface? But ask God, what treasure is he helping you find in the deep? What treasures are there that he wants to point out to you if you just look to him? Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Smack Dab podcast. Be sure to subscribe and check out our latest episodes.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Smack Dab podcast. If this has been a blessing to you, please consider helping us continue by making a donation to our sponsor at engagetogoministries.com.